yeah, I do the obvious. They blunder, so at this point, we're massively winning. That was weird. I got a bit confused then because I've got a webcam up there and I thought I was recording from there, but I was actually recording from there. It was very confusing. So anyway, here we are, trying to get better at chess. Better again. This is actually a new account. I did have one under the name of Ed B, because that's my name. I think my rating was as high as about 1600 at one point, but I haven't played for years, so I think it's okay to make a new account under the same name as the channel. And we're going to play... what are we going to play? I used to play 10-minute games, but seeing as I'm not used to extemporizing and I haven't played chess for years, I'll have to look when my last game was, but I'll check that out in a bit. Yeah, let's not beat around the bush. Let's go for a 15-10. I know strategies and tactics. Why haven't I logged in? Is it this one? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's just because I logged out of my previous account. And the AI help chatbot did say it was okay to open this account. So we've gone for it's a 10-minute game. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll record this one, see what happens, because I don't know what my rating will be at the moment. Hopefully it's still around 1400, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's about 1000. So yeah, we'll just play we'll play e4. So he goes for the Siciliano. I say he, Kim Kyle E. The Siciliano. I can't remember any opening lines, so we're just going to develop pieces. Obviously I was only 1600 peak rating. I get the feeling that that's not the best on Black's part, but I can't remember why. But since I've got to remember we've only got 10 minutes on the clock. I'm also conscious of the incredible boringness of the commentary while I'm trying to think of what to say and how to play chess, so don't be expecting any Levy Rosman level insights here. I don't even know already. I'm just wondering whether it makes... I think I'm just going to go for this. I'm looking around the screen. I can't even see our ratings. Is that because this is the first game I've played on this account? Let's just castle, play moves. I can already break in the centre. I can't now. However, the Black King is still uncastled. They're going to have a ropey looking dark, well, green square bishop. I'm not so sure. I kind of want to go here now, but that's just a waste of time, isn't it? And if I now play d3, I make my own bishop bad, so that's probably not good. But I have to play something to develop the dark square bishop. I almost want to just give up this pawn. I think what I'll do is this first. And I'm already down to 7.5 minutes. See, obviously they're castling kingside. So if I try and play this sort of sacrificial pawn break now, they'll capture this. They'll do C takes D. It's just rubbish, isn't it? There's nothing happening because I don't. Yeah. I wouldn't mind. Do you know what? I'm just going to have to play this. And just admit that this whole thing was a mistake. Mainly in the name of playing moves and trying to not lose on time. I mean, if they don't castle, I'm not sure what they're going to do. Oh, that's fair enough. That actually takes this square away. Although, is there any value in harassing the bishop? I think there might be. If black tries to kick, probably will kick the knight on the next move. That might create a hook. They do it on this move. That's pretty sure that's a mistake, because they've opened up lines here unwittingly, although they can push through the centre more easily now. Am I willing to play check here? That does make... Do you know what? How about... I think I want to play f4. Yeah, we're going for f4. Black king's still not castled. If takes, that helps us to develop the dark squared bishop with a bit of pressure on the base of the pawn chain. They castle. If I... Five and a half minutes. I'd quite like this knight not to be able to recapture, so that we could not isolate this pawn, because it's always got the B pawn behind it. If I just do bishop d2, that's a waiting move. It really doesn't do anything. However, if I push, they're likely to take. When I recapture, I can't. It's far too long since I played chess. I don't know how to play anymore. I'm going to do something a bit controversial. I'm going to offer them an exchange of the bishop for the knight. I mean, they either have to take it, because otherwise I'm taking this pawn with check. That may have been an absolutely awful move on my part, but I just don't know. Yeah, because, see, that's what I didn't reckon with. Is this knight hop actually... I'm going to allow myself to be forked. Because there's tactical counterplay. In fact, really, I should have... What am I doing? Yeah, I've definitely got a lot worse at this. I mean, the king is pinned. I can take on h6, threatening mate. Silly me. It just shows how, in fact, I think is black's best move therefore is bishop g5, looking for exchanges on that square. And they go for the fork anyway, so here we go. We're threatening mate on this square. They can't defend with the bishop because they've left this e-pawn intact. So really they need to defend laterally with them like that. So that's a pretty good move. We're not losing a rook, are we? We can just go like this. Since this pawn's still pinned, I think they're forced to exchange, which actually liberates this rook from being captured by the knight, and therefore their knight looks like a bit of a loser. They can oh shit. Well, it's okay. If they attempt this fork, which I'd completely overlooked, then we can just drop back. So that square's covered. I don't know why it's so... Yeah, they actually can't do it. It's quite funny, isn't it? How it's hard to... That's one of the first things that you kind of learn when you start playing chess. That you just kind of tunnel vision and you forget that pieces can move backwards. In fact, I think that's one of the most subtle things about chess, is the fact we're just going to take here. I think that's a killer blow, because it pins the rook. That's the obvious defense. But since we're winning bigly. We're just going to trade off pieces. We're going to trade off pieces. We're going to put our knight into the centre. We can come here with check. This bishop needs to go... Should go there. Probably. Yeah, but we can just develop our last rook. Not sure develop's the word at this stage of the game. Because if I don't do something absolutely abysmal, there's no... We've got some good infiltration squares. Can't really capture here. I think we should just start lobbing pawns forward. We've got this 2-on-1 here. So I think if I just leave everything over here alone, just march forward with the, yeah. I think that's a pretty, well, I was going to say lackluster defence, but there's no defence at this point really. There is, yeah, we'll just step up. Obviously they're going to try and push. Does that do anything? No, we just keep rolling. Actually, when they push, we just march on. Because you can just slide past. There is no law that says you have to take a piece or a pawn. And that, yeah, we do this. they take, we stabilise the whole thing over here. Are they going to resign? No. I wish they would. All I'm going to do is put the rook on the second rank. They can step in here. Does it matter? It kind of does actually. That's a problem. Okay, let's do this. Hopefully they'll do something silly like, yeah, they didn't. Am I getting trapped now? I hope I'm not getting... It would be rather shitty if I lost, wouldn't it? If they can take with check. I don't like this. I do not like this. I think we just need to step here. Am I gonna lose? If I allow promotion, I've just allowed... Why did I do that? Can't believe I did that. I just... It wasn't even really a mouse slip, it was a brain slip, I suppose you could call it. There is a way to... The queen has got a useful check. I've lost. And they find it. If I step here, let's checkmate. If I go here... I can't believe I've lost. I've actually lost. I've lost this game. That is incredible. I can't step back because if I go to E1, that's checkmate. I've just lost. There's nothing I can do. The queen is infiltrated. Why am I wasting... Right, so which way do I can't believe this. Right, which way do I want to lose? I'm going to try... I'm going to... Oh, hold on. What's happened? I did not mean to close the game there. Sorry, opponent. Where's my game gone? What's happened? What? Do not know what happened there. Well, I lost. Terrible. Okay, folks, I've recovered from that and made myself a nice cup of tea in the periodic table mug. Absolute classic. So let's look at the analysis, and even without being able to analyse chess games properly, this shows, it illustrates why we're bad. And areas where actually we're not bad. Because the way I lost this game is the way I lose chess games in general, and I think people, I don't know because I've never been good at chess, but I think a lot of people display the same kind of patterns which result in stupid losses. So anyway, that being said, let's just see what the computer says about the game. I think I said this was bad. I don't know why I said that was bad. It's because I don't know anything about openings, but I guess I was working on the assumption that it's not developing pieces and, you know, it's opening up this diagonal to the king, but I suppose at this stage it doesn't matter. So nothing's really happening. Apparently this is, you see, I played this and then subsequently mentioned the pawn break in the centre, and of course the computer wants me to play that already. So I mean, I think often you just have to have the confidence to play the move that you think is the best move, instead of, I know they say, what's the chess adage? If you see a good move, try to find a better one, that kind of thing. But sometimes I think when you are a bad player, you can, or should I say a good player is good because they can prune the potential candidate moves very quickly. Like Magnus Carlsen just plays the best moves because he knows the best moves. Like he doesn't even think about it most of the time, or a lot of the time, especially at this stage of the game where he's still got 20 moves of prep, maybe more, I don't know. But so we missed that, and again, you see, it wants us to open up the centre, which is one of the basic principles of chess. You open up the centre when the enemy king is attackable. Why didn't I do that? I think I didn't do that because I think I was too focused on the fact that I'd already developed this bishop to a square that I'd decided I didn't like, and therefore I don't know. I can't justify that, but of course at this point this is actually a good move that restricts my ability to break in the centre. So I do that, and of course see the computer doesn't mind moving the bishop a second time, because I suppose that would be placing pressure on the f7 square, which is like, it's literally the first thing you learn to do in chess, isn't it? You learn the scholar's mate, where you stick a bishop there. And also in openings, what is it, the Italian game, the bishop that's called the Italian bishop actually, when the bishop develops to this square on the first move, because that's where it goes in the Italian game, which is one of the, I think that's the only opening that I ever learnt a bit of. And so a bit more development. Again, it wants me to put my bishop on a better square. It's interesting that I just assumed that black would castle here, but actually it likes the development of the bishop. Why wouldn't it like that, I suppose? I mean, I suppose the thing is, although I was going on about how slow black was playing, I was playing slowly myself, so, you know, I think the second thing you learn after Scholar's Mate is, oh, you need to castle, but you don't actually need to castle if the opponent isn't attacking you. In fact, it can probably be inferior to castle, possibly be inferior to castle, I should say, because once you've castled, your king is kind of stuck there, isn't it? So, it becomes a target. So I do that. That's interesting. The computer wanted me to play knight d2. Okay, don't know why. Yeah, this is obvious. I think, you see, this is where, even at the kind of most amateur 1800 level chess, this is worse than the computer says if you're a human. Because apparently black is winning here. Plays this, kicks the knight, and, you know, there's a 0.4 swing in my favour. That's if you're a computer. When you're a human, and the game proceeds obviously like this, then you just think, oh, I've done something wrong, it's really bad. You start to panic. You start to play even worse than you already were. So, although the evaluation bar didn't move very much, I think subjectively that was a bigger mistake by black. Yeah. Now, interestingly, the computer does want me to play bishop h5 check, which I considered, and I rejected it because I thought, well, you know, the bishop's already on a good diagonal and it allows them to trade off an attacking piece for a knight, but of course my queen would come in with check, and their only continuation is actually to move the king to d7, I think. Not their only continuation, I guess they could, but if they go to f8, then they're just burying their own rook. So I think the natural thing to do would be to step here, and then their king's in the centre forever. So actually, you know, it makes sense from a very amateur human point of view to say, well, although I'd be trading off this knight, trading off this bishop for a knight, I expose the king, which is what I was talking about before. So although I know I'm supposed to do that, I just decided not to do it. And I did that instead, and apparently now black is winning, which I don't understand, but you know, are we supposed to understand it? Castles, bit of that, and now it kind of does it like it really doesn't like my idea to. I suppose the problem with this is, although it worked in the game, is a bit of a silly one. It's a one move threat which allows them to trade off my active bishop, because in reality when they take here and I recapture with the queen, they don't have to although I'm kind of generating an attack on this weak pawn, it's extremely easy for them to defend because they just move the queen onto d7, I guess. So interesting that it liked that from black. I suppose it's the combination of the fact that black is moving their knight to a more active square and defending. As I've just mentioned, my first instinct as black would be to move the queen off the back rank here, principally because it's developing pieces. I guess that would be the sum total of my strategic thought about that. I mean, at this point I definitely was playing better than black, even though that it's interesting as well that this is considered bad, because I was trying to generate this pinned pawn tactic, but I suppose I overlooked the fact that I needed to, what does it want me? Yeah, it wants me to move the rook to the open file. Possibly, maybe it's a combination of the computer wanting the file to be contested, so that when I do capture this pawn, I can remove the potential defender. Although I wouldn't, because the queen would just slide across if I took. I suppose black could fall into the trap if I played this. And it likes this. I don't know. Let's leave that for when we're better at chess. So I took anyway. Black is still winning. I find that impossible to understand. I guess again it's a very simple threat to defend against because the rook is here and the file isn't contested, whereas if I'd contested the file with my own rook before, not only would it be unable to be captured by this knight or threatened by this knight, I'd be removing defenders of the mating square straight away. Maybe something like that. So yeah, I do the obvious, they blunder, so at this point we're massively winning. As I mentioned, sometimes we all do it. You see a square that looks good and think, haha, I'm attacking your queen, I'm forking your rook, and you forget that their bishop can slide backwards and just take a piece. But I think it's quite instructive that the evaluation is now swung to 5.5 for white, because although that is to say the evaluation is greater than the material advantage if you count the material in terms of points. I'm a knight, he's got a bishop, so we both have a black squared bishop, so I'm up a knight and a pawn. When did I'm so bad at this. I'm up a pawn. I took a pawn at some point. Oh, I took this pawn. Yeah, so I'm a knight and a pawn up. However, the evaluation is actually better than that. Per the traditional points for material system. I do the obvious thing, they do the obvious thing. And I'm going to say that this is the point at which, despite being massively ahead, I start to play badly. And the reason is because I know that I'm winning. Like I'm good enough at chess to know that this is a completely winning position, and so I assume I've won. And instead of doing the fairly obvious move of bringing, if I bring this knight into the attack, which is what the computer wants me to do, I'm threatening to, trade off this bishop, remove a defender of this pawn. Generally do good things. Obviously the evaluation bar doesn't swing back to black in this case because they're completely lost. I suppose my thought process was I take off major pieces, move my knight into a position where it kind of dominates the bishop, because obviously with it being on a white square and them not having a white bishop, I take away all these squares from the one remaining bishop. So that's why I did what I did, but obviously not the best thing. Some more moves take place. Yeah, the computer does want us to do this, which is obvious. Should be obvious anyway. I mean, if you're rated higher than 100, I guess it should be obvious. And this is the second interesting point, I suppose, of the collapse. Although the collapse hasn't happened per the evaluation, it was kind of already brewing in my mind. I was thinking, how can I lose it? Not thinking, how can I lose this? I don't think I contemplated taking this free pawn, which is, I don't think it even crossed my mind. I suppose given that it's still on the 7th rank and these pawns are moving forward, it's actually better to, the evaluation's actually not going to improve that much for white since we're already completely winning by taking off this pawn. In fact, it probably, if I took the pawn, they could kind of do a bit of pinning here. So yeah, that probably wouldn't be great anyway. And the computer just wants me to trade off, which is of course what I should do, because I already mentioned before, when you're winning, trade off. But I don't do that. I suppose I was thinking that by this set of exchanges allows me to gain more control over c3 and therefore preventing this bit of an attack. But as you can see, it's actually not much of an attack at all. Oh. Did I just totally miss? Yeah, you see, I didn't evaluate this check either with the knight. Knight f4. It's... yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters that much. That's not the worst thing I did in this game. This was a massive piece of strategic understanding that I lacked. I suppose I'm thinking that this pawn is the base of the chain and it needs to be protected at all costs, so I just do the, like, you know, the dumbass thing of protecting it. Whereas if I'd given check, I would have protected the knight, their king would have stepped forward, taken the pawn. However, am I? Yeah, it just allows me to infiltrate and remove all their pawns, so although it looks like they can pick up a free pawn, it's not free at all because my rook gets in and everything, well, it's already collapsed, but it collapses even more. But by doing this, I actually encourage their king to come and get me. Because I think that's another thing that we overlook as crap players is when there's only these few pieces left on the board, you know, the king is a beast of a piece. Once the queens are gone, it's a potent attacking piece. And this, you see, that's interesting as well. The fact that I guess the computer is acknowledging the fact, or should I say, the fact that the computer wants me to take this pawn in exchange for a whole knight is testament to the fact that, you know, you can give back material when you're winning. If I took this pawn and, you know, presumably they recapture with the rook, I then just start pushing the e-pawn, presumably. Because at the point that this attack's totally neutered by sacrificing the knight, because they just become 2 on 2, and because I've still got the b pawn on its home square, the rook can't infiltrate. It can go there, it can go to the back rank, but by the time it does all that rubbish, I will have promoted my own pawn. But instead, what did I... hold on. Why did I do this? Why did I do that? I mean, I didn't contemplate this capture because I'm not good enough, but I suppose I thought that this move supported this square, basically, so that I could, you know, make it easier to promote my own pawn, but of course in doing so I'm being really slow. I allow all this to happen. Yeah, the computer just wants me to march in with my own king, because why wouldn't it? You know, at this point, I just lose. My advantage is actually... when does the advantage disappear? Let's see. Yeah. That's actually quite an insight to be gained. I was still plus 4.1, and then I neglected to give up this knight for a pawn. What would that have resulted in? The evaluation still would have been plus, it would have gone up. It would have been 4.7 because I essentially would have liquidated everything on the on this side of the board, and you know, at that point there's very little that black can do because my rook's protecting the base of the pawn chain here, and when both players have only got one rook, there's nothing really left to be done. So yeah, I did a... well, you know, I'm not going to criticise myself too much for missing that because I'd be a better player if I saw it. So this happens, obviously I just go to bits, and it's interesting as well that I suppose that the computer wants me to step back to G2 to prevent the rook coming over here. But no human, I think, is going to do anything other than promote the queen. And do you know what the other reason is? Had I stepped here, I would have had an extra tempo, because there would have been no check on F4. No check on F4. And then I could have played E7. It was a better move. And does it bring? Well, it doesn't actually swing the evaluation bar. So at this point I've lost. It's mate in 5, which I noticed it. I was kind of hoping that the black player didn't notice this queen check and, maybe did a brain fart of their own. So I just hope for that. Don't get it. And that's a game. Quite an interesting one, I think. From what kind of point of view? From a didactic perspective, if you're bad at chess like me, there's quite a lot to be learned from that. Namely, don't take your eye off the ball when you're massively winning, which is a way when I did play more regularly, I lost that way a lot, because I would get into good positions and have probably better opening, strategic and middle game knowledge, not knowledge, just a better kind of strategic understanding of the opening and the middle game. But I play too slowly and just I'm bad at end games. Yeah. So thanks for watching. There's probably no one watching, but you could even subscribe. Ta.